Guys, welcome to another episode of the Patriots Table. Today, we got a very special guest, a personal friend of mine, Dr. Ravi. Now, Ravi, you're a graduate of the Trinity School of Natural Health and a board-certified holistic health practitioner. Uh, what is some of the major things about naturopathy that isn't really widely known? I know this has been holistic health has always been around, but there wasn't a lot of knowledge on it. And then when, Bobby Kennedy allied with Trump, a lot of the stuff he talks about and his works kind of brought to light this whole world of holistic health that majority of Americans either just wrote off as craziness or, just didn't really know about it all. So how would you explain naturopath?
So to explain naturopathy, I have to, kind of separate the medical naturopathy versus traditional naturopathy first, because traditional naturopathy is what holistic health is founded on. That is those are the principles of, you know, actual holistic health. So in the recent times, simply, I think because the natural health profession has seen a tremendous increase in people coming to it for help, the medical and pharmaceutical industry has got together and created their own naturopathic world in their realm, which we call naturopathic doctors or naturopathic physicians or medical naturopathy. So what I'm talking about is not that. And if we have time, we can get into that and kind of break that down a little bit. But mostly traditional naturopathy focuses on the whole human based off of the terrain theory. So the pharmaceutical industry works primarily off the germ theory. And traditional naturopathy and all the other holistic modalities work off the principle of the terrain theory, which is basically our internal terrain. And again, not to get into too much detail, what that means is that, the environment inside of your body, both the cellular, emotional, and, physical, non-physical, everything combined is what makes your terrain. So if I put it in an actual definition form, naturopathy is just a form of alternative medicine. I don't even know why it's called alternative because it was the original medicine. That kind of counsels the individual on food choices, lifestyle choices, and also provides some lifestyle and emotional support because emotions and the whole emotional sphere plays a huge role in your health. And a lot of people don't know this. And we're trying to fix things that are physical without actually fixing, like working on the emotional side of it. And that's like all of this to bring it into a balanced form within that terrain that we just talked about is basically traditional naturopathy. And there are many foundational principles of nature and the energetic aspects of the body that kind of help harness that innate healing power that each and every one of us has, that has stood the test of time, which provides and has provided the evidence for safe and effective means for having better health. So if I had to say, that's what I would call the actual definition and the practice of traditional naturopathy.
And you actually had um, your degree in medical physics, and you were a cancer doctor for 13 years. So not only are you have a background in the medical industry, it was actually a very, I guess, would say high-end degree in the medical industry. It was definitely more of a niche field with that, right? And you
Yeah.
just stepped away from it to go towards, like you said, it's don't know why it's alternative medicine when it was
Yeah.
the original medicine, but you just stepped away from that. What made you want to step away from that?
Oh, that's going to be a long story, but I'll just keep it short. So, just so that our listeners are clear, I mean, I'm not a medical doctor. I had a PhD in medical physics. So what I did was work with the physicians who do cancer care and providing them the ancillary support services that they require and also checking their work to make sure that my job was to make sure that the radiation therapy part of cancer care was properly administered to the patient from the medical standpoint. So, my job was actually far more stressful because everything ended with me. So, if I did something wrong, I would have probably, harmed thousands of people before they even figured it out. So I worked in that field for 14 years, actually. I was board certified by the American Board of Radiology. I worked at multiple hospitals and finished off at the Metro Health Medical Center in Cleveland, Ohio, as the director of clinical medical physics at their cancer center. The reason I stepped away from it is actually twofold. The first thing was that, in 2012, after I took the position as the chief there, I mean, they required us to get a flu shot to keep my job. And that didn't sit too well with me because even in the medical industry, a lot of people know and kind of avoid that vaccine for a lot of reasons because A, it doesn't work really well, and B, it never promises to stop you from getting the flu. It just stops you from going to a hospital, which most people don't. So we never, paid attention to that. But I figured out that the reason they were forcing us to do it was because, they were getting reimbursed for it. And that didn't sit too well for me. So I refused to take it. And I was like, I think the only one in the medical staff that was given an exemption to continue working for the next couple of years. They did manage to make my life a living hell, because of that. So, and then in the meantime, I was always interested in seeing, and, working in cancer care, you actually see that we never actually tell people how to prevent getting cancer. We always wait till they get cancer and then try to cut, burn, and poison the person to try and get rid of it, which, six one way and absent the other, it's not a very effective way of doing it. So I was actually interested more in like, how do we prevent getting cancer? And they really don't have anything in the traditional medical fields to tell people that. And it all falls on your diet, lifestyle, and your environment for the most part. Now they'll tell you that your cancer is genetic, but I can tell you that very, very small percentage of people get it because they have genes and nothing that they could do would have prevented it. Most people's genes are also turned on by those three things that I said before, diet, lifestyle, and environment. By creating deficiency and toxicity in their body, that's when your body breaks down and eventually gets damaged cells which turn into cancers. So I realized that I had to do something outside of what I was doing. So while I was actually working, I went back to school. It was 3.5 years of work, studied on how to educate people on how not to get sick, because for the most part, the medical industry, and I'm not saying this that all medicine should be, abolished or ignored. I mean, medicine has its place in healthcare, especially in critical care situations. But as far as chronic illnesses go and illness prevention, they really lack in that area. And the only way you can get that is if you understand the terrain and understand what food choices, lifestyle choices, and your environment does for you. So that was the primary driving force. So, having done that, I completed 5 years and, I just quit that and I started my own practice, here in Ohio. I did that for 8 years and now I'm semi-retired from that too.
Wow, there's so much to unpack from there. I mean, the first thing that really stuck out to me is they made your life hell because you wouldn't get a flu shot, which is a
Yeah.
vaccine, get a flu vaccination that they would get money from.
Yep.
It like just wow. I mean, one, how much money do you think they're being offered just for you to not get it to make it warrant that kind of response? I mean,
It was actually surprisingly low. I mean, like, so, like for a county hospital, I mean, we didn't have a lot of, it's not like a big, hospital conglomerate, but I mean, it was 2% of their Medicare reimbursement was withheld if 90% of their employees didn't report a vaccination status. Now, what was actually required was a vaccination status, not that they got vaccinated, but the hospitals, without allowing, that discrepancy to stay within like the community. I mean, like they didn't want people to say like, oh, you're not getting vaccinated, so I'm not getting it either kind of situation. They just mandated it. And to me, I mean, like, it's kind of alarming to me that a employer could do that because you're injecting something into your body for which they are not responsible. and neither are the vaccine manufacturers responsible. So if you get any kind of adverse reaction to it, be it minor or be it major, and there are some people who have not only had permanent injuries, I mean, there are people who have died from getting certain vaccines. That should be something that, should be ethically wrong, in my opinion. So, I
Oh,
fought this a
absolutely.
lot. And then, of course, that resulted in me getting involved in a lot of the advocacy work that, I think that's how I ran into you was, fighting for these rights that people should have to make their own decisions on how they determine what healthcare is best for them.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's been so much controversy around the flu shot specifically for as long as I can remember. And
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't get it. Even my parents didn't have me get it. It never made any sense to me that I just for me personally, virtually every single person that I knew that got a flu shot would get the flu. It seemed
Uh-huh.
like they had the same type of symptoms, and I would argue that they got the flu more than I got the flu
Yeah.
with getting
Yeah. No,
the
you're
vac
right.
and it just even if you're not, one of those anti-vaxxers, it still that one just seems really far out there, and the fact that it's constantly, "Come get your free flu shots." They'll they'll do it if you're going to pick up your prescription at your local
Uh-huh.
pharmacy. "Oh, yeah, you can do that real quick. Just step over right here." Like, it makes you wonder what's the ulterior motive, what's going on behind closed doors that isn't being talked about or the the public doesn't know about. But no, that just blows my mind that he would, you know, go after you because they weren't gonna get the kickback on it. That really
Well, I
blows my
think for the
mind.
most part, what the problem that I created for them was that I made them look bad because, the entire medical staff lined up because, they don't want to rock the boat. I had like pretty much every senior medical officer in my office, trying to coerce me to, kind of comply. And I'm like, I'm not complying with this, mandate because to me it makes no sense. And more than that, I mean, and I hate that term anti-vaccine because I mean, I was fully aware of what that vaccine did and didn't do. So, I mean, I would rather say that I was more vaccine aware about that than being anti about anything. I mean, it's the same thing like you're aware that something is bad for you, you avoid it. I mean, that doesn't make you anti that whatever that thing is, right? And then, as you said, I mean, like people who got this shot, I mean, I could tell 2 weeks after everybody got their flu shots, I mean, the entire hospital was a mass of hacking people because the immune systems get a little compromised, because of the vaccine antigens and whatever that goes inside of the body. And then, you're more susceptible to getting sick. And of course, the vaccine never promised that you're not going to get flu. So, there we go. And, it's funny because the 5 years that I worked there after that, I never got sick, never took a sick day. So, I mean, is it coincidence? I don't think so.
Sounds kinda similar to something that happened in the past few years, with a certain other vaccine that
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's all the same. I mean, and the funny thing is, I started looking into this deeper only after that because I mean, I was fully, like I accepted the medical community's recommendations as I didn't think that they would be, doing anything like this for money. And then what I found out, after the fact, I mean, so I started digging into a lot of stuff. I mean, the research, the published research. I mean, like reading CMS guidelines. I mean, I did a lot of that work, and what I found there was mind blowing that that people weren't aware of. I mean, that's another whole discussion. Maybe we can some other day. But that it was alarming to me, and that started me on a whole different journey. Thankfully, I was out of the system by then, and I was able to speak freely and not get And that's the other thing. I mean, if you work in the system and you speak against the system, they come after you pretty hard. Okay, and
oh,
we have seen this
I
happen
saw
with
that
many medical doctors. Yeah,
really bad. A lot
right.
of their
So
actually lost their license during
yeah,
COVID
yeah,
season.
you can lose your license, you can use those registration certifications, all that stuff, and they'll make you, and then the media will be quite happy to make you look like some complete whack job, and your career is ruined the moment you go against the pharmaceutical industry. And this happened with drugs, it happens with vaccines, it happens with everything. uh, and there's many documentaries out there now. I mean, the OxyContin thing was one of the big ones that we all experienced and saw in our own lifetime what they did. I would urge anybody who has not watched Dope Sick on Netflix to sit back and watch it, because that's true. Everything that they talk about is absolutely true, and this is how the industry works. I call it the medical industrial complex because it's a big moneymaker. And cancer care, apparently, like, and I know this, it's not apparently, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, it's a huge moneymaker. So you can walk, you can run, you can bring awareness, you can do whatever, but I mean, there's never going to be a cure because uh, that's a multi-billion dollar industry. And,
Right.
why would you kill your own business?
And it goes back to another thing I want to zoom in on that you said earlier when you decided to leave. You recognize that you're not hoping to prevent people from getting
Mhm.
cancer. You were just dealing with it after the fact. And,
Yep.
you know, there's so much money. I mean, pharmaceuticals and just the medical industry in a whole in the U.S. is the most profitable industry in the world. It's more
Yep.
profitable war than anything else. So that begs the question: if they're taking that approach to something like cancer, what about every other aspect of the medical industry? Because I know for me personally, when I would go to the doctor, and I was having something going on with me, whether it be, oh, I'm having migraines. They go, oh, okay, well, we'll do these scans, blood work, whatever. But the everything led to, well, here is this prescription
Mhm.
medication to deal with that symptom, and the key word there is that symptom. It
Yep.
was never, and I remember I asked one time, and this is where in my life it all changed for me. Was I asked the simple question of, okay, well, that's great, we can manage the symptom, but what's the root cause? Why am I dealing with this?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they looked at me like deer in headlights. Well, we don't know. Like, so what is this? Are we treating the issue, or are we treating the symptoms and, again, making money off of treating symptoms? I mean, does that pretty much go along the lines with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry has the best business plan ever, right? I mean, they are basically managing symptoms till people just, die from either the drug side effects or whatever that was ailing them in the first place. And if you look at the top three chronic illnesses in society today, I mean, it's heart disease, stroke, and cancer. It's all lifestyle based, right? I mean, these are lifestyle illnesses. So, what pharmaceutical helps them with their lifestyle? I mean, every once in a while they'll come up with something which is even more toxic than what they do when you fall sick. Like right now, there's this whole, Ozempic thing for weight loss. I mean, it's going to cause problems. There's no pharmaceutical that you can take that has no side effects or has a long-term effect on you, on your system, on your organs. Okay, people need to understand this. It's a short-term solution. Now, am I saying reject all pharmaceuticals? No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, there are times when you need it. Like when you have, if you have a heart attack or if you're having a stroke, that's not the time to call your naturopath. Okay, that's the time to get, this is a critical situation. You get a pharmaceutical drug, get past that hump, and then you start working on, like you said, the root cause. Okay, they don't have, and like you said, they don't teach root cause in medical schools. They don't. I mean, all to them, a series of symptoms is given a name that's called a disease. And then for that disease, the pharmaceutical industry has a bunch of prescription drugs. I mean, if you go on drugs.com, I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands of drugs out there. And each one is geared towards taking care of some symptoms. And then if you look under them, there are like 75 side effects, some of which are actually what you're trying to actually mitigate. And then when you have those, they'll give you another one. So this is like you're getting on like a hamster wheel. I mean, you're not getting off of this, scheme until you actually address the cause. And the cause simply is what you put into your mouth when you eat, your lifestyle, what you do when you're not eating, right? And your environment you put yourself into. If you're in a toxic environment, you can guarantee your body is going to be toxic after a while. And we see this in people. I mean, I've seen this in people. I mean, the first question I ask is, what was your job? Because people have job-related issues that came from their job. If they're working in a chemical plant, I mean, your body has those chemicals in it, right? I have people who do welding. I mean, I've been welding all my life. Well, this is why you can't breathe. Your lungs have all this stuff accumulated in them. But that's the solution is not to give them something to clear their airways. It's to, find that root cause and address that. And sometimes it's not even physical, which is completely out of their realm, which is why they call us quacks, because we work with things that are kind of, in that realm out there that no one really can put a finger on, and it's not measurable. But, in the 10 years that I worked in this field, I can tell you that those are the things that cause, those are the root issues that cause these problems to spiral out of control until you get on the drug bandwagon. Now, again, I mean, even I have to say this before, I forget, because when it comes to cancer, right, that's the point where your body has like broken down after dealing with the deficiency and toxicity for a long time. Now, there are some that you can completely avoid, the mainstream route and do everything holistic, and you'll have a much better quality of life, if not outcome. Once you get cancer, I mean, the outcome could be 6 one way, average than the other. But the most important thing people need to understand is that sometimes, depending on the stage level of the cancer, and the level of, the damage already done, mainstream medicine can actually buy you the time you need, right, for the holistic medicine to work. So, when you're doing this, you have to be very cautious of not to get, to go into one extreme or the other, and find a team. And I tell people that I work with, in this situation, you need a battle plan. You need, all the right warriors around you, and go to battle. You can't just say, I'm going to reject all these, other one side of the, fence, and then I'm going to go only with these guys. And may not work. The outcome may be, maybe fine for the time being. Your quality of life will be better, definitely, but the outcome may not be what you want it to be. So there's two sides to the story, but I think waiting till you get sick to address something, I think that is the mindset that we need to change in people. Okay, the way you don't get sick, or prevention, is the key. And if you understand from your, very onset, right, as soon as you turn into an adult, I mean, I'm teaching this to my child, that you need to prevent things. You can't wait till you get sick and then try to find, I mean, you can still do it, but it takes a lot longer. And it takes a lot more effort on your part. But if you prevent things from happening, which again comes down to those three things we talked about, it's your diet, lifestyle, and your environment, you can prevent a lot of these things from happening. Okay. And this goes for all, many chronic illnesses. So,
And
that's
I
kind
wonder,
of, I think, the message.
I wonder what type of play society has on that, because I've talked to several medical doctors, and I've asked the questions, why do you automatically, like in the case of whether it be obesity, diabetes, why is it always a medication? Why aren't we suggesting diet and exercise?
Mhm.
Put the pot down, quit eating the fast food and stuff like that. And I get the same response every time. It's, well, nobody listens to that or wants to do that
Yeah.
anyway. They would just rather take a pill and continue to do what they want. So I almost wonder if society has let the medical industry, or enabled the medical industry, to take things as far as they have with how they approach um, treating, disease and chronic illnesses because everybody's gotten so lazy. They don't want to put in the work. And you brought up the Ozempic a little bit ago is
Uh-huh.
a perfect example. People would rather go take a pill with
No.
a list of pretty bad life-altering side effects and would rather roll the dice than go to the gym, change
Yeah.
their eating.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think as a society, I mean, and this is not just us. I mean, like it's not I mean, this is a global problem. I think we have become lazy and we have become, so accustomed to getting things done easily. And that, if there's a pill, and I run into this problem all the time. I mean, my 10 years of working in this field, people would much rather not give up things that they like to do in the name of preventing disease. I mean, like, so chronic illness, because it's not, the thing is like, if you think about it this way, I mean, if you're going to jump off a bridge, right, you know what's going to happen. But the thing is, no one tells people what's going to happen if you have, a bad diet, bad lifestyle, and you have a bad environment that you're living in. Nobody tells you what the end game is, and nobody knows. I mean, you cannot really predict that except say that, eventually it's going to come get you, right? So people just continue to enjoy life. They call it, whatever. And, they'll take care of it when it happens. And you're right, because the medical industry doesn't want the liability. And, especially in this country, I mean, we're a litigious society. So they don't want to take the liability of telling someone, oh, yeah, you're having heart disease. So go and, change your diet and go to the gym and you'll be fine. I mean, they don't want to take that risk because they're covered, legally if they prescribe the drug. And if the person dies from a drug, it's like, oh, well, we tried. And this is
I
the
mean,
sad part. Like, I mean, I mean, there's a lot of good that both sides can do together to improve people's health. But I don't think improving people's health is the primary goal, even though they claim it is. It's basically keeping people from dying by putting them on a drug.
well, and
I mean,
you
that's the
hear it
bottom
with,
line. That's it.
with, like smoking. It's like, oh, yeah, smoking causes cancer. It's well known smoking causes cancer. And then, you hear this person who's been smoking for 30 years. Well, my grandmother never got cancer, lived to be
Uh,
100 years old and stuff like that. It's like everybody's always looking for an excuse or a
yeah,
reason to continue what they're doing and not make the hard choice to just, change their lifestyle, whether it's,
yeah, yeah,
stopping smoking, stop drinking, pop and eating fast food and eating all the processed food. And that kind of leads me into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was the to me it's really apparent that there's some kind of backdoor handshaking deals going on between the medical industry and big food because I mean, you look at how we prepare our food and how we do things in the US even compared to, European countries, because most of our food isn't even allowed in other countries because it's
uh,
so bad. I mean, and there's so much money tied up between food and the medical industry. Do you think there's some kind of deal going on, like as evil as, "Hey, we'll get them sick and bring you customers, you keep them alive, and they'll continue to eat our
I mean,
garbage and have a vicious cycle, and we'll get rich off of it."
so that's something that I don't know. I can say for 100% sure. I mean, I'm sure knowing how evil the industries are, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that going on. And you're absolutely right. I travel, and I have seen the food, from around the world versus here. In fact, the same kind of food, the same food, in fact, made for the US and the European countries by the same manufacturer have different ingredients in them. So, Do they want us to be sick? I mean, I'm sure they're happy about it because that's their bread and butter, their business. I mean, do they have inside deals? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I haven't really had any kind of revelation or a concrete idea that I could say for sure, but I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, why would they have that? Why would you have one manufacturer have different ingredients for one group of people and another for another group of people?
Well,
That that just that sounds
that's because the European food, like the regulatory agencies, are not as bought by the industry as the the FDA and the USDA. In fact, only several countries, handful. I know UK for sure, and the United States for sure does it. I mean, this is the reason why people have gluten allergies and wheat sensitivities, because they allow the spraying of Roundup to kill the wheat so that it dries faster, they can harvest it. In other countries, I mean, they allow it to dry naturally. So there's no glyphosate. I mean, like if you spray glyphosate, kill the wheat, and then grind it up and then serve it as flour, I mean, you can bet that there is glyphosate in that product, right? And that's because somewhere, I mean, I know this happens in the FDA because there is a thing called user fee or whatever. So whenever there's a new drug, I mean, there is money exchange between the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry. That I know for sure. I'm sure there's something like that going on with the agriculture people as well. I mean, because they allow things to happen here, which is cost effective to the industry, because they allow people to spray raw animal sewage on our crops as fertilizer. I mean, if you ask people who live by the farms in like the major farming states, I mean, it's unbearable because they just the factory farms that collect all this sludge. I mean, they just spray it on. They wonder why we have all these food poisoning and all these bacterial poisoning from greens and stuff like that, which are just basically being washed once or twice after they, you know, get harvested. It's because of our agricultural practices. I mean, you don't ever hear of a small farming or like, farmers market food having food poisoning, do you? You don't.
no.
So I think, so this is the thing. I mean, as a society, we need to start looking at our food choices. We need to start looking at places to buy food that is not grown in these mega farms, which is, very contaminated. We need to look at our food and our lifestyles and our environment in a whole new light. If we don't, then like you said, we are going to wait till we get sick, and then we're going to, depend on the medical industry to keep us alive till we die. So it's a choice, and people have to make a choice. And I have to tell you, ever since COVID, I mean, I have seen a marked difference between people's way of thinking when it comes to this stuff, which I think was probably the only good thing that happened out of that whole, you know, quote unquote pandemic. Because people woke up and they started to realize that they have to do something, because most of the people who were getting severely ill and dying were people who actually had chronic illness, comorbid conditions. They said on average 2.5 comorbid conditions. Those are the people who had major issues with their with getting COVID. So that opened a lot of eyes, and which was good. I mean, because I saw a lot of people during that time who had never heard about energy medicine or naturopathy or anything like that, who actually, even from the medical, I mean, working in the medical industry, who came to me and, they were extremely pleased at what they, found, because no one tells them. I mean, this is something I think we need to teach at school. I mean, children should be taught at school. Throw away this, FD, USDA food pyramid, because that's a piece of junk. I mean, like, actually teach children what they need to put into their body. Because if you think about it, I mean, your body depends entirely, its existence depends on the nutrition you provide it. And that comes from what you eat. So everything that is, carbonated drinks, processed food, refined food, artificial food, none of those things provide those. And then eventually, you do this for 30, 40 years, you end up with chronic illness. It's unavoidable.
I mean, and you look at what the average American buys at the grocery store for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
It's so shocking. Me and my wife, we have a lot of vegetables and fruit and a lot of whole
Uh-huh.
foods that we go to the store, and it blows my mind every time we go to the checkout, and we line the conveyor belt on there with
Okay.
nothing but fruit and vegetables and stuff. They look at us like we're crazy,
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
the crazy ones to be eating this way and not just eating nothing but, pizza rolls and
Uh-huh.
frozen waffles and TV dinners and all the pre-made stuff. And like you said, they're
Yeah.
putting, you what they're spraying on the food. It's, I mean, I forget the exact percentage, but the amount of pesticides that get squeezed into fruit juice, the number of it is staggering. Like, just if you just look it up, it's staggering how much essentially it's poison. How much poison is being
Yeah.
put into that drink, and people have it in their minds that, oh, this is great for my kid
Uh-huh.
drinking fruit. This is so good for them,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they love it, and not to mention it's, I mean, mostly sugar. I mean, pretty much all
Uh-huh.
nutritional value at that point is just
Yeah.
thrown out the
Yeah.
window anyway, right? So I mean, what's aside from taking, responsibility and actually caring about your health, what are some simple steps that people can take to start going in the right direction? Because a lot of people don't know how to get out of this, like you said, a hamster wheel that our society has seemed to fallen into. What are some basic ways that people can, try to get out of that?
So I think, like the first thing that I usually when I work with someone, I mean, I make sure because a lot of people, also don't realize that, you can be eating like the best food on the planet, but for some reason, if your digestive system, your assimilation system, and your elimination system is not working properly, that is all going to go waste because, you're not properly digesting and assimilating your food. So I think, people need to work with someone or learn how to fix your digestion first. I mean, like, if you are confident that you're digesting and assimilating and eliminating your food to the best available, possible level, the next thing to do is, I mean, like you said, you have to be, and I don't tell people to follow whatever that I'm doing because diet is a personal thing, right? People have personal preferences, which is fine, right? What you need to do is to understand that your body also needs more whole food that is real food or coming from the different colors because I mean food comes in 6 different colors, right? Each color has a phytonutrient that your body needs and can use and can fight illness, boost your immune system, make you see better, all this kind of stuff. Incorporate those in as much quantity as you can to whatever you're eating right now. Eliminate, and this is, something that I think I'm sure it's out there too, but I used to tell people don't eat crap. All right. And that doesn't mean just everything. I mean, the C was for carbonated beverages because that's one of the worst things you can do. It makes your body, more acidic, which, in turn leads to an internal environment that is more conducive to, getting ill, diseased. And then the R was for refined food. I mean, everything that is like white or refined. So refined white flours, white sugars. I mean, refining removes the actual nutrients from the food. I mean, the beneficial nutrients from the food are gone. So refined food, don't use them. And then artificial stuff. I mean, like you said, the pizza rolls, the hot dogs. I mean, this is not real food, right? They have very little, if any, nutrient value. And I saw somewhere, I mean, like I think it was on a video documentary. Chicken nuggets have like less than 10% of actual chicken meat in them. And if you go on to any restaurant on the children's menu, the first item is chicken nuggets, right? I think
Yeah.
the children should be scrapped because I think children should be eating what we eat in smaller quantities because the children in every restaurant that I eat at is complete garbage, right? Cheese sticks, chicken nuggets. I mean, like it's completely useless. So the artificial food needs to come out. I mean, an occasional, you know, once a, that's fine, but not on a daily basis. And then the processed food, if you have more than like 5 ingredients and chemicals you can't pronounce, and it's highly processed, I mean, like a whole half a page of chemicals in there, doesn't need to be there, right? I mean, those things are highly processed. You want to avoid them because your body does not digest, recognize, assimilate, or do anything with those things except cause inflammation. So why eat them, right? Now, can you absolutely avoid all processed food? No, because, in this country where you cannot grow food everywhere all year round, some of these things have to be processed, but at least look for the minimally processed stuff.
Right.
My rule of thumb is if it has more than 5 ingredients, I won't eat it. And I have noticed that things that have like 20 ingredients, I can make at home with 3. And the only reason why all those ingredients are there is because they want it preserved in that box for 2 years on a shelf, right? So you got to learn to read labels, see what's in your food, eat as much from organic food as possible because the non-organic stuff has all these pesticides, fertilizers, chemical, whatever that they throw on them, right? Roundup. So read labels, and there are
Right.
websites, like environmental working group that'll give you 12, the 12 dirtiest ones you completely avoid. You don't eat except if they're organic. And, the 15 or so clean ones that you can eat non-conventional or conventional. And if you cannot afford all organic food, at least eat real food in the not, in the conventional form. That's still better than eating things off of boxes, right? So this is what people need to do. I mean, they need to rethink what they put into their body and keep in mind that everything that they put into their body, that's the nutrition they're providing their body to thrive, to keep them from getting sick. Okay, so and down the road, long term, to get illnesses that require unending supply of pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, type 2 diabetes is entirely lifestyle. It's diet and lifestyle. I mean, there's nothing else to it, right? I mean, type 1 is different. It's, autoimmune, but type 2 is. And there's been many studies done. There's been many documentaries made where eating wholesome food reverses it. Not only stops, but also reverses it. So that's what people need to do. They need to get educated. They cannot just sit around and think that they're not going to get sick. And maybe some of them won't. And like you said, I mean, grandma lived to be 100, smoking and, eating anything and everything she wanted. But actually, grandma's time, there wasn't as much processed food around as we have now, right? So, they ate, even though it caused some inflammation in their body, they probably ate real food more than what we do now as a society. And I have the same
Well,
problem. I
they
went to the grocery
cigarettes
store.
were better back then too. They weren't filled with as many chemicals.
Sure. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't find a cigarette that's just straight tobacco. It's not a thing anymore.
Right.
It's all with so much stuff too.
And it's not only people also need to, I mean, like it's not only the food choices, the lifestyle. I mean, it's also our environment. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, go back to the 1800s or 1900s or whatever, we didn't have this many toxic things inside of our house. Now, like our houses are completely airtight, right? So like whatever is in the house, like literally stays in the house unless you open a window for 6 months of the year. We're breathing in stuff that is outgassing in our house, that, everything, carpets, all this stuff that emits things that can cause problems for you are actually found inside of our house. Things that we put on our bodies, the thing, candles and all these, things we burn, things we, diffuse. I mean, like if you diffuse like an essential oil, that's a different story. But like we have these plugins and, we have fabric softeners and, there's all these things we throw in our laundry. It's like all of this are causing toxic side effects in your body. I mean, they're all endocrine disruptors to begin with. And then, as time goes by, those manifest itself in other kinds of, illnesses. So, it's a process. It takes a while, but it takes effort and understanding and, maybe help from someone who's, better, worse, versed in it so that they can educate you.
Well, that leads well into the next thing I wanted to ask you because I know from our offline conversation that we had that the holistic field, there's several different parts of the holistic field and people who practice you know that kind of have do more of a supplement thing instead of and
Hmm.
have more replace drugs with just doing supplements. And I know you had mentioned that you can't supplement your way to health, because that's
Yeah.
again trying to deal with a symptom of underlying problem. So, what would be your advice for, you know, if somebody doesn't want to go that route? Because I would hate for somebody to, stop stop going to the medical industry for everything and then finding somebody that's doing almost the same thing but on the other side of the aisle. So what's a way that people can, actually get the guidance and the help that you're referring to?
Yeah, so that you bring up a really, really good point, and I think I'm glad we brought that up because that's something that I have struggled with in this field too. And the thing is, people wherever there's money involved, and this is the unfortunate truth, people tend to kind of, the business aspect of it takes precedence, like over what really needs to be done. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you are working with a practitioner who's constantly giving you supplement after supplement, trying to chase after symptoms, I would say run because you're not going to get anywhere with that approach because you're still not addressing the root cause because you're addressing a symptom instead of with a drug, with a supplement. Supplements are good in where they're needed and as the name implies, to supplement whatever else is going on and not for long durations. Okay. Once you have to get your body to do what it's supposed to do. Now, unless you have some, like for example, you had your gallbladder removed, you're going to have problems digesting fat. You know, that's going to be a lifelong thing because you don't have a gallbladder. I mean, there's some well produced, but not enough. So you're going to have to take some kind of enzyme, for the rest of your life. That kind of thing, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about you have a migraine. So then, you take a supplement for that. And then, your migraine goes away when you're taking the supplement, but you stop it, it comes right back. You haven't done anything, okay, other than manage the symptom for a while. So the key to understanding the true traditional naturopathic process is to understand what goes inside of your body from an energetic perspective. And that's what I did when I was working, is to figure out because your body gives out, there's biofeedback from your body that tells you where and what areas, what processes are lacking the energy to do the job that they're supposed to be doing. And so you work on that. You fix that first. And in the interim, while you're doing that, you may need to supplement for a little bit. But then once that process is restored, then you don't need to. So I had people who came to me with a shopping bag full of supplements that their previous naturopath gave them, and I just told them like, look, since you paid big, money for it, you can use it up, but that's not the process you're going to use. Always use the energetic feedback systems coming from your body. So there's various methods of finding that and getting to the core root of the problem. And then you start working from there while you work on the digestion and, the changing the lifestyle and the food choices and stuff like that. That system works a lot better than trying to chase things, with supplements. And then, those are not covered by insurances. They're not cheap and you're not getting to the root of the problem. So that's the approach that I would take. Find somebody who uses approaches where it looks at the entire body as a whole, gives a picture of where things are out of balance, and then, bring those systems back into balance. And then, from that point onwards, I mean, it's just a matter of repeating what you did on your own, so that, you don't have to keep going back and keep swallowing pills all day long. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the approach that I would definitely take.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing, and I'm pretty sure, taking the supplementing the health route, pretty much ends the same way. Eventually supplements start to not work, and then you
Yeah.
start
Hmm.
to wonder, "Well, what am I doing wrong?" Then you're right back on that hamster wheel of
Yep.
not knowing what to do about your health.
Hmm.
So, I mean, and you said you're semi-retired. I mean, is there anything or, any particular practice or anything that, you would recommend people to go to that, they wouldn't fall into that trap?
So right now I only know of one. That's the one that I've been working with. So I mean, like, Helping Hands Naturopathy. I don't have the website, but if you have it, you can put it up on the thing, and like have people contact uh Andrea and go from there, because she and I have worked you know together, and I have kind of passed on some of the information and the work that I've done, and she's following the same process that I use, which worked really well. So I would have no hesitation recommending that practice to people who want to get some information, get going, actually learn about the process first, if you so wish, and then you know take control of your health. One of the things I really have to mention before before I forget, when it comes to supplements too, I mean, like, so the supplement industry is not regulated, so there's 100 different manufacturers out there. I would definitely not go for the store brand shelf, store shelf supplements, because you're only required to have like 17% of the ingredient listed on the label for it to be sold as that supplement. So if you want to do something that actually works in the short term that you need it for, I would go with a clinical grade supplement. So there's many manufacturers out there too, and whoever the practitioner you're working with should be familiar with those. That's I think something that also is really important, because quality matters when you're on something that for your health.
Oh, I just wanna say thank you. I mean, your journey is so inspiring. I mean, to walk away from what you walk from and not you walk away from a lot of money too. That's
Yeah.
those pay very, very well, and you decided to, go with what you knew was right and start and you've lived it, majority of your life, genuinely helping people and trying to change the narrative on what it means to actually, live a fulfilling and healthy lifestyle. So, it's really inspiring. You plan on doing a documentary or something some point after your life? I think it would sell. I really think it would sell.
Planning on writing my life story, which would be also nice, entertaining. But at some point, in life, doesn't become the sole focus. I mean, you have to know what you're doing in life has a purpose, and that's kind of where I was at that time. So it was perfect. Appreciate you having me on the show today. So it's very nice to be able to talk about this stuff on a open platform and say what you want to say. I appreciate that opportunity.
Absolutely. The time flies when you're having fun. So,
Having fun,
but,
yeah.
thank you so much for joining us, Ravi. I would
You're
love to
welcome.
have
Thank you so much.
there's so many things that we could branch off and talk about this stuff, but no,
Absolutely.
I look forward to having you on the show again. Thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.